Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Check the wire. Ryan, Gary, Anthony Eterno, DanGheesling. Super excited to be here today. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing well. The reason I was late will be on YouTube in the next couple of weeks. I had literally a once in a lifetime Isaac run, the likes of which I've never experienced before in my entire life.
So I think we'll just probably go on a limb and say this will be the technical glitch issue of the show. There's multiple things, but just for people I know they like to hear behind the curtain a little bit more, what happened in the Isaac run? Because for me to get a message from you saying, hey, I'm gonna be a little late, that's like getting struck by lightning. So just to set the precedent, that's not something that happens often or if ever.
It annoys the crap out of me too. Like I was talking about it during the episode because people, and I saw it in your chat, and I'm not mad, but they're like, he's late because of Isaac, lol, forehead. But like I started the episode with like 80 minutes to spare, which no Isaac run in 2020 takes 80 minutes anymore. And I got 65 minutes into it and was like, this is going to take longer than another 15 minutes. So I Googled mid-run how to save and quit in Isaac, and then I did it, and I'll just go back to it at a later point and try to beat it.
Are you going to edit it together?
Probably not. No.
So
it's going to be a rare 2-part Isaac episode.
So speaking of technical glitches, I hate to do this on the fly, but can you move your camera the way you normally move it? Because now that we're flipped. So just to get while he's doing that,
like this. No. Like this?
Other way.
Like this.
Couple more. We probably need a lot more today. Yeah. Keep going. Hey, ladies and gentlemen. So to give some context, this I think this is something worth talking about. When you do live streaming, and with YouTube you can always fix it. When you do stuff live, stuff breaks, and sometimes you delete stuff. We'll start from the podcast then. A Discord, there's an update. And it flipped Ryan and I. So if you're watching right now, you wouldn't be able to tell. But probably 90 seconds before we went live, I'm like, oh, normally Ryan's on the left, I'm on the right. So we switched the overlay real quick, because if not, everyone's gonna be like, oh, the names are wrong, haha, which I get. But like, stuff like that always pops up. And for me, I don't know how you handle it. I make a decision, either fix it quickly and move on, or let it go, because what are your options? But have you ever had something pop up live that was potentially show breaking or a show annoyance that you had to deal with?
Oh, constantly. Like I've been doing this long enough that I know the workflow of the streamer. I'm like, okay, like if this doesn't work, what's the problem? Oh, my microphone's blown out. That's because Uplay and Source Engine games automatically crank your mic up to 100, even if you don't give them permission. Does it say encoding overloaded, even though for the video or for the actual game itself, it looks fine? That means the game needs to have VSync on. Otherwise, OBS will capture it at like half a frame per minute. So I got like all that stuff I've got figured out. The one that I can do nothing about, and I wish I had never made a meme about saying Rav when there's frame drops, because like whenever there's frame drops, people go Rav, and then it's just like endless Rav. Even if it's like 4 frames get dropped in an hour, it's like Rav, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do about that. The packets got lost on the way to the ISP. But How about you, Dan? Have you ever had any technical difficulties on a stream?
Oh yeah, all the time though. But when you were saying that stuff, like with the Uplay and all that stuff, the only way you kind of figure that out is by doing it. So it's not like you could read a book and be like, oh, when you play Uplay in Assassin's Creed, this happens. So I found that the interesting kind of underlying tone of what you're saying is every problem you ran into, you can't really prepare. I mean, there's stuff you can fix, but you can't really prepare for it. You just kind of go through it. On my end, yeah, there's been all sorts of issues, and one of which was a fairly big one today. And just to give some context, I use a program called OBS. It's a free streaming program, and over time, the way I build my show, there's a lot of pop-ups and memes and songs and stuff like that. So it's like having a bunch of yarn, like hundreds of different colors of yarn, which isn't a problem. Like the yarn's still there, but it's weaving them together that takes a lot of time. So in preparation for the podcast, I always try to make things better, right? And one of the issues that we ran into of doing our first live show is I thought I did a good job of turning off all the alerts, and I turned them all off. But I think it's something with, if you have alerts on in other scenes, they'll still pop up. So I had the great idea. I'm going to duplicate my normal stream setup in OBS and then just delete everything out of it except for like a bare bones Ryan and I's face on the camera. So there's no alerts, no nothing. So I duplicated, I delete one. I'm like, okay, let me make sure it didn't delete it. I double checked. So I went through, I deleted probably like months worth of weaving this tapestry together. And I'm like, okay, good. It's going to be perfect for the podcast. And I switched back and I'm like, it deleted everything. And there's like a half-second panic. And then I just started laughing because at that point, like this is 10 minutes before I'm supposed to go live on Twitch. What do? I started building a bare bones setup and I'm like, well, because I know I didn't have the file saved. And so what I ended up doing to kind of salvage it was I just ran the show. I had an old save file from like 2018. So it was all old stuff. But I just tried to it was definitely one of maybe the biggest blunders I've ever made in production. And it's probably going to take 10 hours, maybe not, but a couple hours to rebuild it. But, it's like you laugh and move on. And I just tried, my thing is I just wanted to put on the show, even if it was at a lower quality. So
yeah, I mean, for future reference, I think that there's like, when you duplicate something in OBS, there's like duplicate copy or clone and duplicate reference. Reference is like the files are still linked. So whatever you do to the original file will happen to the second file and vice versa as well.
You being a programmer and me being, I'd say the average user, how could you rename that to make it more clear for me? Because you even you just explaining it, I'm like, I don't know which one is a duplicate and which one is not. Clone is
I mean, I don't know, honestly. I think that not pass by value, pass by reference, but like reference and copy are kind of the same verbiage that I would use, to be honest. But I don't blame the end user for not understanding it. I know how people use computers. They right click. There's 2 copy options with something in parentheses. They're like, one's probably basic, one's advanced. I'll just click whatever. I'll just click the first one I see.
So speaking of that, so we got through the technical issues. We're doing another live show. I did want to address one other thing that I wasn't prepared for. And we kind of talked about is that we decided to start doing it live. We're not, we're going to do it live as much as we possibly can. All the show times are going to stay the same. But when Ryan and I kind of put this together, it's kind of like, all right, Ryan is going to get the VOD to put up on his YouTube channel to have the benefit of that. And then when we started doing it live, we're like, okay, I'll delete the VOD immediately after so that, you still have the video format because that's what we agreed upon. What I didn't anticipate was that people would watch the VOD, we delete it. And there were like a bunch of messages saying like, hey, I was watching, it was deleted and I couldn't finish watching it. That was something I didn't prepare for. But, you and I kind of worked it out that, we just kind of hashed it out. But we're not going to delete the VOD, but we would encourage you to check out the video format on Ryan's. When are you going to put the video live now?
Probably Friday morning. I mean, It depends when I get the source, but, I honestly, it's like I told you in the back end, I don't really care. Like people ask me all the time. They're like, oh, should I watch on YouTube? Should I watch on Twitch? What's the best way to support you? Like YouTube Premium, Twitch subscription, whatever. Like it literally, like I do not care. Whatever way that you like to ingest the content, then ingest the content. Like from the very start of this, I've been telling people if you would rather watch or if you would rather listen to the audio only version, I'm not going to sweat the analytics on the video side of the podcast because I know that people they'll listen, in their car, they'll listen, at the gym, they'll listen when they're going to bed or something like that. So honestly, it doesn't bother me at all. If you want to watch live, that's ideal, I would say, so we can see your feedback live and generate commentary off of that. And apart from that, if you'd rather watch the VOD on Twitch than YouTube, be my guest. Doesn't bother me at all. I'm just happy you're here.
Well, and that was Ryan made it really easy, but for me it was a very difficult thing because whenever I make a deal, especially it's like, hey, you get the video and the benefits of it. Like I don't, I'm not one to back out on a deal like that. And I know Ryan's like, it's not a big deal. It's for the betterment of the show. But then it's like balancing that with what one of my philosophies about content is to make it frictionless, right? So some people are only going to watch this on Twitch VOD. They're not going to, listen to it on YouTube or wherever, so it's kind of like walking like that. But for me, Ryan, it was heavily weighed. I cared more about breaking the deal that I made with Ryan about, hey, you get the video file than the friction, because that's just how I feel about it. When I make a deal or when I do something with a collaboration, like I want to be the one to be like, hey, look, this is the terms and I'm not going to change that. But Ryan made it super easy. It's like, dude, don't worry about it. It's for the betterment of the show. But that's all stuff on the fly that, you know, when we decided to do the show live 36 hours before, you know, I always think it's kind of like what Ryan said. And he says a lot of stuff that kind of stuck with me. But one of the things is like, you're better off just doing it than like planning it and making graphics. And that's kind of how I feel like. It's just,
I don't like to talk. I mean, I like to talk on the show, but I don't like to plan. When people are like this, oh, how are we going to do this? Is the perfect way. We're going to make like these overlays that are going to pop so much. And then we're going to have like a promo image. I'm like, in the time that it took to plan that stuff that people might like, but is kind of ancillary to everything else, we could have done like 2 episodes. Which is what I think it's good. I like when there's collaborations where there's like one planner and then like a lot of people who like executing. But I also think if there's going to be 2 people, having 2 people that just like to execute is good. I think that it's I like it as more improvisational, it's more iterative. You make more content, and you know there's something electric about a more unplanned atmosphere as well. People have this idea that, you know, anything could happen because it's not like the censor's got his finger on the red button to cut the feed if something goes wrong.
No, but I just want to clarify something, Ryan, and that's one of the reasons why I really like working with Ryan is he's always going to show up. He's going to do what he says he's going to do, and he makes stuff really easy, right? So like, as opposed to, I mean, I don't want to put numbers out there, but you know, the difference of a VOD on Twitch versus a VOD on YouTube, you know, we're not talking like a ton of money, but even if it was, I still don't imagine it would have been an issue. But that's just,
I mean, we both know the end game for this is not making YouTube ad revenue. It's that we start advertising Warby Parker or Squarespace or Casper mattresses. That's the path we're taking. And it's not going to be YouTube ad revenue in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. It's going to be, you know, lynda.com wants to sponsor us.
And along those lines, we didn't plan this, but there's a question in the show notes. It says, it was from a Twitter question, and it says, thoughts on Patreon. And I've never really explored that venue so much, but I knew you had some experience with it in the past with the previous podcast. But what are your general thoughts on that?
I've thought a lot about a Patreon in the past. I think as of right now, there's no judgment on any YouTuber that does use a Patreon, at least as long as they actually still deliver, you know, what they say they're going to deliver. And it, you know, that's an aside, I suppose. But for me, I don't like to be that beholden to my audience, I suppose. Like, I don't like to change the nature of the dynamic. What I have right now, I like a lot. On YouTube, if you enjoy a video, you're going to watch more of my videos. You're going to tell people to watch my videos. You're going to click the like button, and then more strangers are going to see my videos, and I'm rewarded through that. So I feel like I'm rewarded through like making good content. And I have a, for lack of a better word, I have a business model on YouTube that is favored by the algorithm. You know, I put out a lot of content. It's relatively low effort, but I'm putting out stuff multiple times per day. I have if you're a YouTuber that makes like a video every 2 weeks or a video a week or a video a month or a video every 6 months, but they're really well researched, but you know, just by like sheer like economics of it, you'd have to get like 100 million views per video in order to make that worth your while. So I think that Patreon can work for that, but for me, it doesn't feel right. I prefer the dynamic I have right now, which is on YouTube. I don't really like want your money. I just want your time. And then if you like what you saw on YouTube, come over to Twitch and, you know, use Twitch Prime if you've still got Twitch Prime, or, you know, pay $5. And that's really like the contract is sealed at that point. But how about you?
No, that's interesting because I was waiting to see how you were going to weave it into a way that it would make a type of content creator where it makes sense. Because I kind of feel the same way for me. And like I said, no judgment. Like you painted a picture where, hey, like just on sheer logic, this person can probably not still make videos without a Patreon. And for me, it's kind of like the same way. And it's a way I look at a lot of stuff. And, you know, just to preface this, no judgment on any other way. I just look at it as a meritocracy. And you'll hear me say this time and time again. If I make good stuff, then all that stuff comes after it. But I got to get through the process to find out what the good stuff is, make a lot of mistakes to make it put people in a position where it's even worthy, be like, yeah, I want to spend $4.99 via Twitch to support this guy, you know. And in the same way on YouTube, it's like, you know, and the Golden Goblet series has been great, but like it's forced me to do other stuff where it's like it's like a self-perpetuating addictive thing. When you start to figure it out, then you're like, all right, let me do more of this and more of this, as opposed to reverse engineering, right? Like putting the meal before the hard work. Like that's just how I look at it. It's like I want to earn the meal, and that's not implying that if you do Patreon, it's not earning the meal, but that's just how I want to do it. But I don't know, you know, so I would never fully take it off the table because stuff could change. Like all of a sudden Twitch Prime goes away tomorrow or whatever. You and I may be talking a different tune.
No, I mean, and actually, while you were talking, I was thinking about what I was going to say, and then you said it, which is like, I kind of like, for me, I think the motivation works better when there's like a carrot on a stick instead of like, well, like, let me tell you the story. So in third grade, I remember I had to do this, like my teacher gave us this writing assignment, and it was to teach you that for a story, there was like a beginning, a middle, and an end. So she gave us all an Oreo and was like, with the beginning of the story is like the top layer of cookie, and then the middle is like the cream, and then the end is the bottom layer of cookie. So you can write me like a 3-paragraph story, and when you write the beginning, you can eat the top, and when you write the middle, you can eat the cream, and when you write the bottom or the finish, you can eat the cookie at the bottom. And then I just ate the whole cookie right off the bat and then wrote the story, and my teacher got insanely upset with me. She was like, you're not supposed to just eat the cookie before you write the story. Now, that's just a tangential metaphor, but I kind of feel that way about my content. Is like, I would rather be like a hungry and make the content and then get the reward than get the reward and be like, maybe this will, you know, compromise my motivation to work afterwards.
So I thought you were going to take a different spin with it. It's like, if you write the story first, you got like 3 extra Oreos because it was a really good story. Because I'm like, when you're saying that, I'm like thinking like, how can I use this Oreo in my home to help motivate like my kids to do something? Like, no. But that's, I mean, it's a good metaphor because I don't know. I just also like to kind of tie it into kind of the next thing is that, you know, this is our first time, you know, myself and Melf and Austin playing together in Twitch Rivals. And it went really well. And it was, you know, real quick context. It was a Tarkov competitive event where it was casual. So I thought we had a chance to do well. We did better than we did really well for our skill set. And I think there are a couple of good things, but to kind of tie it into the Oreo thing, you know, I think it was a really fun experience. The audience was excited and we really had a lot of fun. And I think it was good, to be honest, for like me, Austin and Melf to play together and you know, just kind of play, no offense without you, but they're all, I'd say, closer to
like
you.
Tarkov.
No, well, no, but like from a relationship standpoint, they're like closer to you. So I think time like away, it was like, all right, hey, when the captain's away, the boys, you know, they work out some new passes and stuff like that. And I think
that makes sense.
And I think it got everyone like hyped for the next Unity, whatever it's going to be. But to tie that back to the Oreo, like something happened to me that's never happened. Even with the Tarkov drop. So for context, you know, a normal show for me, normal now, is like 500 to 600 viewers. During the Tarkov event, it was about 2,000. That was just the event. And then after, I'm like starting to wind stuff down. Like I put everything out. I like emptied the gas tank. It was like, you know, the whole day was like 10 hours. Then all of a sudden, everyone in chats is like typing 40K. I'm like, dude, what are you guys talking about? Warhammer. So the Twitch Rivals channel hosted me. So it was like 40,000 right away. Then it tapered off to like 22,000. I was like ready to shut it down, but I'm like this is a rare opportunity. 100% it was a no-brainer. Like, go. And so, you know, I had like another hour to do it. You know, I put on a show, but the whole point of talking about the Oreo, if that would have happened day one for me or the first year stream, I wouldn't have known what to do, or I wouldn't have known how to like maximize that opportunity. Versus it's kind of like you build up to, I'm not saying 8 years built up to that one moment, because I don't like, it was fun, it was cool, it was exciting, but that one moment of having 20,000 viewers doesn't define the show or really didn't change anything that I did. But it was just kind of like, if that would have happened right off the bat, I don't think I would have appreciated it as much. And it's kind of like eating the cookie before. Like I felt like I did a lot of work. not to earn or even deserve that host, but just to be in a position where if it happened, I was kind of ready for it. So that was kind of an interesting thing to handle, because the other thing was totally unexpected. I didn't even expect the numbers for the show to double on the Twitch rivals. But I think it brings up an interesting question I want to ask you. When you go live, do you have any expectation of the numbers of people that are going to tune in?
Well, internally, for sure. And it's interesting. I feel called out, but in like a way that I accept. Because I never really went through a period on Twitch where I like started small and then like exploded. Pretty much from the time I started, I did start at like a minimum that was, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 viewers, which is insane. And it definitely leads, or has led in the past, to like a little entitlement, where you would like do a stream, and if it goes really well, you're like, oh, we have like 5,000 or 6,000 viewers. That's amazing. It was a good show. But then if like things get a little boring, you're like, oh no, I only have 2,300 viewers. And, I have to check myself less than I used to, but I still check myself occasionally, where when I finish a stream, it's still, I think it's good to look at the analytics and be like, okay, so this is lower than average viewership. So like what happened at the end of the show or at some point during the show that caused people to go away or to not show up in the first place, but still be like, hey, like 2,000 people and 300 chatbots showed up to, watch the show, and like they were still enjoying themselves. And even if it wasn't like they weren't pogged out of their gourd the entire time, at least, they still got some comfort out of it, or they, kept you up on their other monitor where they did something else, and, you're kind of part of their routine. So it is, it's flattering for sure. And, I mean, I think that, I like where you're coming at from that position. And I think that I want to flatter you more, because I don't want to let you like get away from this too easily. But I've been in a Twitch Rivals myself, and I've seen a lot of Twitch Rivals as well. And I think your philosophy and the philosophy that all of Unity had for that Rivals is the way to do it. Like, it's something unique. It's probably not once in a lifetime, but maybe like a once in every 6 months or once in a year sort of opportunity. And it's for fun. So why not try to like, give everything you've got to make it entertaining? And if it works, amazing, with no expectations that it'll ever get bigger than that. But if it works out like it did for you, even better. I think some people are more like, they would participate in an event like that and like try hard it and then be like, I'm not worried about making it entertaining. I just want to do as well as possible. And I think that for me, it's kind of a missed opportunity. And people tend to think, in my experience at least, instead of thinking like, what if I put my all into this and it goes well? They think, what if I put my all into this and it doesn't work out well? Then I put in all that effort for no reason, and like I'll be disappointed. So I was really stoked to see that. I mean, I didn't watch Rivals, but I was like, I know Dan's going to give this all he's got, without a doubt. And then like when you got hosted, I was like, I bet what happened is they put you on the main feed, and they were like, this guy's being super entertaining right now, so we're going to give him the host.
Well, that's like, so I found all that stuff out like Post-Mortem, is that like, so I was just streaming and like just doing my thing, and really just, essentially an extension of the normal show. But I was excited because it was like a competitive, different, unique experience to share with the audience that normally watched me. It wasn't like, not there's anything wrong with the normal show, but this is just something like, hey, it's almost like when, we've watched you in Champions of Fire. It's like, it's something you can get excited about, because it's kind of like your horse is in the race now against other people. But like, I found out I was on the front page for like a couple minutes, or the front Rivals page, but I didn't find out until way after that I guess like the host took a break, and it was just like me for like 40 minutes on Rivals, and I had no idea. So it's like kind of like what you said, if you're not, depending on how you approach that, if I was just sitting there try hard the whole time, people would have been just like, what is this? Versus like, hey, is this guy on something? Like on Monday on the show, people are like, you will not believe what people were saying about you. It was just like, hey, is this guy sponsored by a caffeine company? But it was just, I don't know. I just feel like my philosophy is you put yourself in a position to be successful, control what you can control. But like, I would have never said like, oh, I didn't even know we could be on the front page like that, or get, I didn't think about that. My whole philosophy is put on a good show, have fun. Like, number one, put on a good show. Number two, have fun with Austin and Melf, and then everything, like it'll be exciting, but if we get oversalted or anything like that, and there were some moments of contention and like, what are we gonna do? But I think that made it more intriguing. But I don't know, and I wouldn't. I just feel like it's such an opportunity, right? Even if it's something outside of your wheelhouse, to just do something different. And what's the worst that's going to happen? I can guarantee you, if you do, like, say you were to do a Rivals for League of Legends. I don't think you've ever played League of Legends, but
right, yeah.
Is it going to hurt you? No chance. Like, if by you doing a League of Legends Rivals, the only thing that's going to do is help you. It's not like you doing League of Legends for one day, half your audience is going to flee. So I don't know. I just am very grateful for the opportunity, but I'm kind of like, I don't say surprised, but just, it's interesting to see that everyone doesn't look at it that way. It's like someone saying, hey, look, here's a free chance to be on the main stage. And you're like, wouldn't you showcase what you're normally about? I don't know. I just walk away from the whole experience feeling very grateful and there's a very memorable moment on multiple occasions, but also not a culmination of 8 years of effort on Twitch, but just like, all right, hey, look, the stars aligned for that moment. And I did the best I could with it. And I think the interesting thing is that after that, people are like, okay, 40,000 or 20,000 viewers watching you, like now your stream blows up. It's not like that. But what it does happen is like, so here was like the Twitch community before the January drops, then it spiked and then came back down. But when it came down, it was higher than where it started at. And I feel like that's how you do things or how I do things on Twitch is like over time, it just, maybe you get bumps, maybe you don't. But I don't think you worry about that because it's not necessarily in your control.
And I mean, for your community, speaking from experience, this is all building into like the anthology of your stream and YouTube history, So like for me, we've got stuff like Champions of Fire 1, Champions of Fire 2, like blowing up Minecraft with that nuclear bomb at the end of the Team Unity Minecraft Season 1, the pot play, this like Checkpoint League and stuff like that. We've got all these like little touchstones that each one might have generated, like a little bit of buzz around itself, but it also, it kind of strengthens the foundation of the community as well, because they've got like these inside jokes and these kind of histories that they can talk about with one another that makes things interesting. So it's like another signpost in like the history of Dan's journey on Twitch. But I was like, to put it as honestly as possible, I was really proud of the way that you guys handled the event. I mean, it didn't have any doubt that you were going to go into it and be like super silent and just focused on just getting as much, like esports credit as possible. But I was like, I think they did an amazing job. I think you guys went into it with the right philosophy, and I think people noticed. And, that was what I tried to accomplish with the Uno Twitch Rivals, and maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. We have the same philosophy on that one. So I was stoked to see how you guys did it. And I hope that obviously you've already gotten something out of it. Even if you hadn't gotten the raid, even if you hadn't gotten the credit of being on the main feed, at least you did, like, you put on an amazing show for the people that were watching in the first place. But on top of that, I hope that people involved with Rivals are like, these guys are people that we could invite in the future, because no matter what, we know that they're not going to get too salted up and they're going to bring the entertainment value.
Well, that's what I was hoping for on the, at the end, I sent a message that said, hey, number one, thank you so much for inviting me. But I hope that, we could do this again with, name drop Northernlion, because I think it would be fun. That to me, that was the only missing component, was that it would be awesome to have you there. It didn't fit the format, and, Tarkov, I'm sure it would have been a different story, but it comes full circle. We never, because it happened before the podcast, tell me about your Twitch Rivals experience. I got to pull back. Someone tweeted me and say, hey, Dan, good luck. I hope they collude against you and you lose. And I'm like, dude, I responded, I hope you have a better day. Because I didn't know what the meme was. So can you tell people your experience with the Rivals and what you played and what you did?
Yeah, so I got invited for the first time ever to a Twitch Rivals in January. And it was a good fit for me because it was Uno. It's a game that literally the amount of skill required is 0. It's not entirely luck, but it's fairly luck based. And I was like, this is going to be a lot of fun. So, we played, I think I played 4 games and then like 1 game at the final table. And I got bodied super hard. And if you want the overarching narrative,
how do you get bodied in a game of random luck, or how do you get
basically like I was playing Uno as myself I was bringing some energy to the game, but I also was like, may the best player win, yada, yada, yada. But as time went on and the table and the standings started to get a little bit more set, people started colluding with one another that are like, hey, if we work together, here's where we all are in the standings. I will, even though it'll make me come third, I'll give you the win because it'll cause the person that's above me to fall down. And I'll pass them by definition, right? So basically that is what happened in the Uno tournament. But I respect it, to be honest, and I enjoyed it because it gave me the opportunity to be the good guy instead of being the heel for once. And I really felt like I put my character out there on the line, and I got it out there and made some entertainment. I would say that for me, that Rivals was like, I went out there with the philosophy of like, I'm going to be as entertaining as possible. And I think people on my community enjoyed it. And I hope that people that were in parts of the other Twitch streamers communities enjoyed it. And we got to, instead of like receiving a lot of attention for it, we had another interesting opportunity, which was to pass on the extra spotlight that we had on us because of the event to another streamer who I was like, this guy, I played with him. He was honorable, and he can enjoy the fruits of his labors there. So
what do you mean? What do you mean? What was the context of that? What do you mean you could pass?
Well, like in the final table, like 2 people tried to collude, and then I was like, let's not collude. And then the 4th guy won.
That didn't
not a colluder, didn't collude at all. So I was like, you know what? There you go. I gave him the host afterwards, and people were like, we love you, Zale, we love you, Honor, et cetera, et cetera. So I still look to it as a good opportunity, but I'm like, man, I really I'm itching. Like, I want to be invited to every single one of those. I want to be invited to, even though, like you said, the League of Legends ones, I don't care. Put me, I'll go 0-10 in League of Legends. There's no way for me to get salty. I don't know what I'm doing. So like to lose is so expected that to even get like a little victory mid game when we're going to lose anyway, I'd be losing it. I'd be so enthusiastic, but hopefully we get the opportunity to do it more in the future.
On the back end non-narrative aspect of it, did you notice any analytical difference or any sort of tangible, like, oh, hey, I started watching because I saw you on Uno or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. But I think that's like, I mean, if our philosophy is that if you produce the best content that you can produce, and if you always try to like bring as much entertainment value as you can every single show, then I'm not going to stress about like Uno, not bringing in 1,000 new viewers or something like that. Instead, I'm like, you know what? We did something that was a lot of fun for the community. And I just think it pays dividends like long term, because when you make an entertaining show and when you open yourself up to like, I'm really throwing myself out here to try as much as possible. Like it can only benefit you in the long run. Plus, as Chad is pointing out, I did get like a huge sub train. So even if we didn't get like a big viewership increase as a result of it, people that were watching were like, okay, you've motivated me to be like, this is worth $5.
See, I would just say logically, to pat you on the back, I would say logically it's impossible that there are not new people in your community from that, because
yeah.
So I would, whether it's you can measure it or not, I feel like it's like similar to TikTok. There's people you may not be able to say, hey, you and you, or you could ask and be like, hey, who's here because of Uno? But I think it's logically impossible that no one is started following you or being interested in learning who you were because of that exposure. Because essentially it's like it puts you on, for people that watch, maybe they only watch Rivals or whatever. You're exposed, it's essentially, to boil it down, you're exposed to a brand new audience that would normally probably would never see you. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool that whether it's my perspective or not matters. I think it's cool that that's how you approach it, because you never lose that way. Like even if you get last place, you still don't lose.
And I think you and I look at it the same way. Like it's a dream to compete in an event where somebody else has set up all the pageantry and all you need to do is bring like as much of your personality to it as possible. Like you're telling me you set up the scaffolding for the event. You made the bingo card. You invited 22 other streamers or however many people were in it, and you set up the timeline for the event, you're going to coordinate everybody and make sure we're all on the same page. And you got 2 commentators that are going to commentate what's happening at all times. All I have to do is invite 2 of my friends and play in it. We'll get some exposure, and there's prize money. Like, I would participate in that every single time, no matter what.
I know it's like it's essentially it's the dream. Like, you just show up to a produced event. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I don't know, it's probably relatable to Champions of Fire. It's a little bit different because you got to leave your home, but it's like you have to do nothing but show up and put on a show, you know. And I think it's pretty cool. But I will say the only caveat for me is that when stuff like this happens, it's kind of one of my other philosophies. Is I got this advice one time. It was, long story short, I was interning with the Lions, and I asked this coach who I really liked. I'm like, what's the best advice you got for me? And he said, he's like, nothing's ever as good as it seems, and nothing is ever as bad as it seems. And essentially what I take from that is, like, there's going to be moments of, like, you're pogged out of your mind, and there's going to be moments that are rough, but they're all, like, if you treat them individually, you're going to be fine. So, like, yeah, that was an awesome moment of Uno. Yeah, that was an incredible moment for the Tarkov rivals that I'll always cherish and love, when Austin got the big kill and where everyone's pogged up, you know. But that doesn't, like, it doesn't propel me to the stratosphere, and it's just like a moment in time that's a memory, but it doesn't affect the process. Like, even at the end, you know, there's a lot of subscriptions and stuff like that, and I typically at the end of the show I'll read them all out, and it was like, I mean, it was the longest. I mean, I don't know, it was like 15-20 minutes, and people are like, what's the point of this? And in my head I'm like, I'm not going to change what I do because something unordinary happens. Now, if that was like a regular occurrence and things like that, then I would think about how to make it a better production value or make it more entertaining. But in the moment, my thing is, like, I don't want to change anything about what I do just because something external changes.
I mean, I think this I mean, I like all this, and I agree with whoever that coach was, that, you know, you have a stream. Like, I imagine, to be honest, there are people out there that are like, oh, it must be amazing to be NL. Like, every day you get to do what you love, and you get to, you know, also stream, and people in chat are like, we love you. You're the funniest person I've ever met in my entire life. Like, I read comments on at least a weekly basis that are like, NL is the most entertaining person on earth. And it's not everybody that says that. Let's start there, but still. And I'm like, you know, and I get paid more than I'm worth. So it is on a static, abstract level. Like, every day is pretty sick, but at the same time, it's not as good as it seems, for sure. Like, I don't come into every day with like, oh, I got 10 out of 10 energy. I have to work at it a little bit, for sure. And then the same thing when I have like a bad day, it's not as bad as it seems either. So I think that, like, that's important. But I look at this as, like, you know, I think that every day, every video, every stream, every segment of the stream, every 5 minutes of the stream, to take it down like as low as possible, you like should recenter and try to, like, you know, remind yourself, like, oh, this video is here for entertainment. This video is here. People want to watch this to be entertained. So, like, is there any way I can gussy this up and make it better? So, like, do that as much as possible. But the opportunities you get, like a Twitch Rivals that somebody else is setting up, or, you know, like a Champions of Fire, which was silly for sure. But, you know, just because it's silly, you know, I wouldn't say that in Champions of Fire, any of my competitors are like, you know, we're too big for this event. Like, we're too big to put on entertainment. But there were definitely like some people that were like
too salty. Cool for school.
Yeah, well, or they were kind of like salty they lost, and they're like, well, I don't want to do like any more on camera stuff. I'm just like done. And I'm like, well, you already flew here and have done like 2 days of pre-production and rehearsal for this thing that is admittedly silly. Like, I get you're upset, but also, like, the only way you could lose more is by not taking like any of the opportunities that they give you to like make it entertaining. So I think that, you know, you guys pretty much nailed that. Like, you made the product itself entertaining, and you make your product entertaining on a daily basis. But then for Twitch Rivals, if you can like double up, or if you get exposure, maybe it's not Twitch Rivals, maybe it's Checkpoint League. Like, that's honestly the reason I'm trying to bring my A game for Checkpoint League is like Apollo, who is in chat, so I'll be even nicer than I normally would be. But I was going to be nice to begin with. Put in like, I don't know, like 80 hours of work in order to get the thing to happen in the first place, and is wrangling 6 streamers, which is impossible for most people to do. So I'm like, all I got to do is show up for an hour and like play Mario and be entertaining. It's easy. I think if I showed up and was like, well, I'm just not feeling it today, I would be like, what the hell's wrong with you? He did the work. They did the work literally for all you to do is show up and like crack some jokes.
Yeah, no, and it'd be kind of like, you know, giving a middle finger to Austin if you were to just kind of show up and be like, oh, you know, like people are going to know if you want to be there or not, just based on even like your camera presence. But, you know, and just to side note on Austin, like for what he did and for how easy he's made it for us, it's literally, here's the time you show up, here's the code, that's it. Like there's no, like that's it. It's like the dream. Yeah. It's like, hey, here's the meal. You don't even need a fork and knife. It's right. Like you don't even have to cut it. Everything's pre-cut, and he's done a heck of a job at that. And I don't like, especially looking at some of the back end stuff on Rivals, like it's not easy to do. And then to be able to pull that off in a fun format where people are excited to watch it and play it, you know, he's done a great job. And I think sometimes people, you know, the audience may not think what goes into it, and a lot goes into it, and you know, he's done a great job. But you brought something else too, is that, you know, on a minute by minute thing, this has been such a like condensed week of action. But you were in my stream, I was thinking it was like yesterday, and it was like things were like the viewership was high off Rivals. I think it was like double. It's like 15 or 1400 viewers on playing Tarkov, and then you come in and say something, and then it was like it went from like 1400 to 900. And you said like drops are off, and I'm like, that was funny. Maybe people left because the drops, and went from like 900 to 400 and like 400 to 200. I'm like, but like during that, like for like a half second, where I'm like, oh man, I need to change maps or something. This is boring. And I'm like, nah, just do you. And then what ended up happening, the view count went down to 0. And it's like, this never happens on Twitch, or very rarely. So I'm like, okay, at that point, like even in like the face of like a mass exodus on the show, I'm still like, just put on the show, and like you can't control that. And to talk about, you said there's moments of ups and downs, and like I look at the analytics as a thermometer of like, hey, do more of this or not. But also I get an email saying like, hey, here's a subscription and here's or not, and it's all over the place. So like there's days when you're like, you get an email, it's like, holy cow, like that was a lot of compensation for essentially the same show. And then there's days where it's like, wow, oh, that was like, that's way down there. But for me, I look at them all the same. Because if you get too high or too low, you're gonna mess with yourself and the show you put on. And it's not like, I'm not sitting here saying this is an easy thing to do, because it's not. Like when you look at your numbers, like they're getting slashed in 60% or 40% or whatever. Like it's, I don't know. But at the same time, like in my head, I'm like, well, like, is this like, I couldn't see the community just vanishing like that. I don't know.
Well, what if drops were off though?
No, if drops were, yeah, no, that, I mean, then that would be a huge thing. But it ended up shaking it out, and it was like no one had really left. But in that moment, it was kind of like a nice test of are you going to change when you see the bottom dropping out? And maybe there's sometimes you need to, but that was a time where it was just kind of funny that it just happened all so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a crazy week. Wait, mostly for you. Like for me, it's been good, but it's been standard. But I was like, man, was I in a Twitch chat yesterday? And I was like, yeah, I was. I remember.
Another thing that you know, there's been a kind of a question, I think it's been on the topic for a little bit, is that we wanted to talk about going through the process from like, you know, nuts to bolts, like from tilling the soil to picking the canola off the tree. This is, how do we make a video? Can you take people through your process of like idea to published on YouTube?
Yeah. So for context, I hit Dan up on the, you know, behind the scenes, and I said, like, I enjoy all the mindset stuff. I think that's an important conversation to have on the show. And I think that's one of the pillars that, you know, Check the Wire is built around, is like, where's your head at when you're making content? Or, you know, if you have a bad week, where are you at? When you have a good week, where are you at? But I also think it would be valuable to give like almost some tactics, like some actionable case study, practical stuff of, you know, how do we do our job? A, it's interesting. And B, if you're like, oh, I want to do this myself or replicate it, there's kind of a blueprint for it. So to take a video from like idea to fruition, in the simplest way possible. Let's take like a Northernlion Tries. So Northernlion Tries has like a few phases. The first one is like I have to find a game. Usually that is like, okay, I go to Steam, I see what came out. If there's 2 new release tabs on Steam, popular new releases and new releases. If there's something in popular new releases, that will usually get played because only like 5 games a week end up there. And I know like some of them, I'm like, oh, this is like an anime visual novel, which is not something that's interesting for me. So I find something in my niche. Oftentimes there's nothing there. I go all new releases. And then all new releases is like Mad Max. There's DLC software like that is completely not related to what I'm looking for at all. Games that are 4 cents then have like $900 DLC packages attached to them if you want to buy them, et cetera, et cetera. So I go through that and I like look for something. If I don't see something, whatever. Then I go to Game Pass. I see if there's anything new on Game Pass. I go to the Epic Game Store. See if there's anything new on the Epic Game Store. I go to itch.io. See if there's anything new on itch.io. Eventually I'll find something and I'll either buy it or I'll email for a code. Like I have a manager / publicist who he has ins with the game industry, so he usually gets replied to quickly because people actually respect him, which is, you know, as a YouTuber can be 50-50. But so then like that oftentimes, some days it's super easy. Some days it's like, you know, I have 5 codes come into my inbox for stuff that's awesome. And I'm like, this is going to be perfect. And some days I have to do a lot of digging. And that's usually where I end up like buying stuff for myself because I'm like, I got to have a video up tomorrow. Then it's just a matter of like, you know, you load up the game, you got the software going, you start recording, and then, you know, you just try to make it as entertaining as possible.
Will you try the game before to have some sort of insight, or are you going blind?
Usually not. Like, I'll peel back the curtain a little bit. I used to do a series called Let's Look At, which was like a first impressions type thing, but I usually played like 30 minutes to 2 hours of a game in advance. So when I was talking about it, I knew what was happening. You know, instead of just figuring it out on the fly, it's like literally not possible for me to do that with my current workflow. So the Northernlion Tries is more like, hey, from 0, we're going to boot this up. We're going to run through the tutorial and maybe play a couple of rounds or a couple of levels of the game ourselves as well. So that's one of the things that allows me to actually get the videos out daily. Whereas Let's Look At, sometimes it was like, I'll make like 5 a week and then I won't make another one for like 9 months because I'm like, I just can't find the 2 hours to play this. So then I can put up a video of it. So that was how we got that to work out. But then like making the video is whatever, you know, that's a subject for another show. I try to make it entertaining and informative. And, you know, I don't want to have any dead air. I constantly try to keep things going and like build a narrative in the video. Like this is the goal we're doing. So you can have something to root for and watch out for, et cetera, et cetera. But then like when it comes to posting it, like I upload it and then it's really like that almost for me. A Northernlion Tries takes as much time to upload and like tinker with the metadata and the thumbnail and stuff like that. It takes as much time to do that as it does to record it in the first place. So
okay, so you upload it. You upload it. It's uploading. Yeah. When it's uploading, are you then like what's the physical next step as it's taking 15 minutes? We're getting super granular.
Yeah. Okay, so I upload in a batch because usually I have more than a 1-day backlog for everything. So sometimes there's urgency, like I need something tomorrow. There's never a same day. I don't think I've done a same day. This is like upload to release to it's out there in 1 day. I know you do that for Mario Maker a lot.
We'll talk about that when we're done.
So like I upload like whatever I recorded that day overnight. And then when I need it, it's in private in YouTube. And then I just set the metadata there. But for me, the titling and the tagging and the et cetera is like, it takes a bit because sometimes you play a game and you're like, you need like a snappy title that is descriptive. And also I would love to have the name of the game in it as well. But sometimes I'm like, man, it's not in my wheelhouse to write copy like that for a title. And then the description as well, because I don't even know how many people read the description, but I want to put like something in the description that is like, you know, here's a good reason to watch this video instead of like, it came out today, watch it, you know, which I do sometimes. But I mean, that's really like, to be honest with you, on a super granular level, to upload my videos and well, let's say not to upload, but to set them, schedule this for 6 a.m. Isaac for 6 a.m. Northernlion tries for 9 a.m. Eden for 10 a.m. Golden Goblet for noon. Control for 6. Dark Souls 3 for 7. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. GeoGuessr is 1 p.m. NLSS, as it's uploaded and fits, et cetera, et cetera. That used to take like 15 minutes a day. Now it takes like an hour because, I'm putting more work into the thumbnails. I'm trying to get the metadata better. And like with the tags, I'm starting to like think more critically about the tags as well. Like nobody's searching for like Plebby Quest : the Crusades gameplay. Like that might get like one person searching for it in history. Instead, I'm trying to rack my brain and be like, what would be relevant for people to search, and then have this show up. And I'm like, I don't know, new games April or something like that. New games April 2020. So it's still a learning process. I'm still experimenting with a lot of stuff there, but like I would say the process of like scouting a Northernlion Tries recording and having it uploaded is probably like, it varies between an hour and like 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on how much scouting has to be done. The scouting is really that's the hard part. Okay. How about you?
Well, I got some questions for you. So titling. Before it used to be, whatever, Salinity, Binding of Isaac, episode 300, whatever.
Yeah.
So now, I don't know about your Isaac stuff, but I don't see a ton of videos on your channel that are like X, episode 3, one descriptive word. They're all like, some of them are like, I have no interest in this game, but I'm clicking on it because he snapped me on the title. So like, when you do that, so Plebby Quest, right? I saw that hit the channel. I didn't watch it. I laughed at the name. It's called Plebby Quest. What was the title for that video?
I think it was like Cartoon Crusader Kings or something like that.
Okay.
Because I was like, it's Crusader Kings. It's similar to the game that you're seeing here. It's also a game that people have watched me play before. So I think putting Crusader Kings in the title, my philosophy was like, people might, by a screenshot, they might not get it. But if I put that in the title, they'll be like, okay, interesting. I'll check it out for 5 minutes, and maybe they'll be hooked, and maybe they'll hit the X button. Most people hit the X button on that one.
So it is what it is. I'm looking at some of your other titles. Like I've lost so much that we decided to play Mario Maker.
Yeah.
So like
that one is just I just wanted to make a joke, and also it kind of, on a super like granular level, I'm like, it helps build the narrative around Golden Goblet a little bit. I've lost like 5 Golden Goblets in a row or something like that, so I can at least like lean into the idea that we're doing Mario Maker because I'm mad that I'm losing.
So for you internally, since you've been being more creative with your titling, have you found that to be rewarded externally, like meaning like, hey, this is working, so I'm doing more? Or are you like, I don't know if it does anything?
I think it helps. I think it's slow for sure, but I think it helps. Like what I thought would happen was, instead of titling something like Plebby Quest: The Crusades gameplay, instead of titling it that, putting some sauce on it, in my head I was like, this will probably raise views by like 25 to 50%. What it actually does, I think, is it might raise them by like 10%, or it might raise them by like 15%. But in the long term, if people find it via search, they're going to be more likely to click on it or something like that. And, I mean, even 10 to 15% is like worth doing. Like I recently started putting end screens on my videos. I don't know if you do it, because we watch on the TV app all the time. I don't even know if half the features are enabled, but I put end screens on the videos. So there's a button that is like, click this to subscribe, and then like a video or two that is like, if you want to watch something, watch this. They literally get clicked. Like 0.2% of viewers actually click them. But I'm like, at first I was like, 0.2%, it's not even worth it. Then I thought, okay, well, if a video gets like, let's say it gets 10,000 views, that's still 20 people. Do I have that right?
Yeah, no, that sounds right. Not that you should ask me for math advice, but it sounds pretty right.
Yeah, I'm like, there's still 20 people. So if he gets 50,000 views, that's 100 people. They're not all clicking subscribe. Some of them are clicking on another video, but hey, that's like, maybe another 100 views on something else per video. Like it adds up. It's the same philosophy I've always had about like my production on YouTube is, my videos don't get like 500,000 views each. At least they release. Some of them will get there after like 8 years or something like that. But you know, every video I do does well. I can put out, it does well for me. I can put out a lot of them, and then they also build up the backlog. So like people that like it now, they're not just watching one video. There's like an 80% chance they'll watch the next, and an 80% chance they'll watch the next, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm kind of trying to do that little stuff right. Even if I don't see huge movement, my thinking is like, you know, I think of it like working out, where people, they think if they work out for like a week, they're going to notice like an incredible amount of progress. They always overestimate what they can do with like a small change over a small period of time. And they underestimate what they can do with a small change over a long period of time. So maybe like week to week, I don't notice a major increase, but my philosophy at least is that maybe if I look back over like a year, 6 months, 2 years, then I'll be like, I'm glad I did it because the numbers have actually reflected that.
Is that still the same tool? Because I used to do that, and I don't think I do them anymore. I'll talk more about why I don't know. Is it like, can you simply just copy it from the previous video now that you have it set up? Okay. I thought they got rid of that. Did they get rid of something like that? What was annotations?
Yeah, annotations are gone now.
What is this called? Just end slates or something?
Yeah, these are end screen. So after you say your video, there's a button that's like end screen, and then you can choose like how to set it up. You can do custom ones as well. Like, you know how you basically do it already with the video that you play at the end of all your videos. But it's that, but like with some clickable stuff on it, basically.
Got it. So, but it gives you an actionable item to do something with.
Yeah.
Okay, because I used to do those back in the day, but that's interesting. That's something that like I just learned here that I need to see if we do those or not. And then for you, and I think you left off the last step, whether you realize it or not, for you to close out a video, I would say that you do one more step after the video goes live, which is you go in, which you haven't done in the past. You go in and you'll like, I see people get fired up. Oh, he liked my comment, or he responded to my comment. And that's something. Is that like, is that part of the process, or is that just something you do when you have time to just kind of poke in and do that?
No, that's part of the routine now. It took me a couple of weeks to get there, but now I'm like, and I always forget it, but I'm happy to do it. It's one of those things where sometimes I'll be like, oh crap, I forgot to set a video. And I'm like, that's another 10 minutes of work that's kind of annoying, but it has to be done. The comments, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to reply to the comments. And then I go, you know, I click or control click on every single video that got uploaded that day to load up the comments in tabs and stuff like that. And I'm like, sometimes it's crazy. Like it's out of control. It's like, I'll be like, there were 9 videos uploaded today.
Do you know your record? The most videos you ever uploaded in a single day?
I don't, but
9 is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, it would have to be on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it would be like Isaac, Eden, Grifflands is at 11, Golden Goblet at noon, GeoGuessr at 1. Then that's like the YouTube part of the day. And then there's like the Twitch part, which would be like NLSS, Control, Dark Souls, and then maybe also a variety video. That is like, you know, I played Mario Maker on Monday or something, or on Tuesday. So there's like a lot of days now are like 6 to 8 videos, which is just absurd.
That's a lot of content. I'll take you through kind of my philosophy back from like Square Zero, which you brought up, which was your idea, which I think is a good idea, to give like tactile like information on stuff we do, because ironically enough, whether people believe this or not, I would say I prefer not always to talk about like the mental stuff, because I don't feel like from what stuff I've consumed, I get way more out of people saying, hey, here's what I physically did. And here's like, for example, like you said, hey, I do these end slates. That's good wood. That's, you know, that's something I can do, you know, versus like, oh, you know, when I'm feeling this way, not to say that to downplay the value of that, because I think there is value. But for me personally, I always take more about learning about tactile stuff to do, which is, you know, I think part of it comes from my background about how when I used to speak at colleges, it got to a point, and we feel like we've talked about this before, where it just didn't feel like rewarding. It didn't feel like I was doing the right thing. So I kind of flip where it's like, I'd rather just do something and then share what worked. So I'll take you real quick through my process of doing a video. And I was laughing because there's some days when it's just like helter skelter. I'm trying to, like, I'll literally be recording Mario that has to go up at 3, you know, right up until the time, you know, Twitch goes live. But So for me, what I do on so I have two channels. My second channel is completely all Twitch stuff that I literally do nothing for. I have an editor that will clip the Twitch VODs into. We used to put up the entire show, and I said, hey, let's do it. If you just want to watch Tarkov, make a Tarkov clip, do that. So he'll do that. He'll upload it. He'll do the meta tags. He'll do the thumbnail schedules. I literally do nothing for channel 2. And the reason, and like, I pay him, I hired him, that's all his deal. And so that's good. So I like that because literally I have nothing to do with that. On channel 1, it's a little bit different. If I can get the videos done ahead of time, I'll upload them, and then the same guy will tag them. I call it tag them and bag them. Like, he'll do the metadata, he'll do the thumbnails, and do everything. And I've been doing that for probably about a year. And then I got to a point recently where I'm like, I'm not really fully thrilled with channel 1, and nothing through his own doing. So I'm like, I'm not happy with this. Let me take the reins and try to do something more. So it's funny because I missed it, of like, I would upload and then I'll mess with a thumbnail, and that kind of stuff is fun because when you can see incremental gains, like, so I'll do that. But for me, like, I'll record. The easiest videos to record are like series. So Golden Goblet is really easy to record because it's a no-brainer. You know what you need to do, you do it, and you move on. I have like a running sporadic Spelunky series. I'm trying to get in the City Gold. Those are really easy to do because you don't have to really plan it out. You just do it. But when I do a first look at, like, I did a first look at on a game called Exanima. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but like, I had to download it. I had to figure out how to play it because it's a really kind of unique game, and then kind of go through your similar process. One thing that I found is very different that was helpful to me that I just discovered. There's this free, I don't know if it's a plugin or a Google Chrome extension. It's called vidIQ. There's a free version of it. I used to use that a little bit. I'd type in like Tarkov and it will say like 67 out of 100, meaning it was a really strong keyword. What I just recently found out 2 weeks ago is if you type in that whatever your keyword is and you click on it, it will give you a list of like 20 keywords, and it will say Escape from Tarkov, 100,000 views, competition for the video, low, high, medium. And then all you literally do is you click on the ones that, what I do is that has high search volume and low competition. So I literally don't have to think about it outside of selecting the ones. I don't have to type it. It's been a really powerful tool, and it's free. I know you can buy like a premium version. I don't buy it. I just use the free version. So that's really helped me and like got me excited about the metadata, because I'm just making decisions. I'm not having to create, what do I think, Joe in Skokie, Illinois is typing in the computer. So that's been like really helpful. But on the YouTube, on channel 1, like, for me, it's just, I try to put up 2 videos every single day, and I do my best to do that. But if it doesn't happen, to me, it's indication something's wrong with my workflow. But I'd say our process is very similar. The only difference is I have a lot of help, even with channel 1. Like, if I don't have the time to do a thumbnail, like, I have a Google spreadsheet with my editor, and I like, if it's uploaded and I don't have time to thumbnail it, I'll highlight it in yellow. So he looks at that and be like, okay, I got to do a thumbnail for this. And then I just try to give him, I think, like a 48-hour leeway as much as possible. So if the videos aren't up, then he knows it's on me to get it done. But that's really helped me free up a lot of time, because without that, there's no way I'd have channel 2 going, and channel 1, probably wouldn't be as active either. And then to throw one more little curveball, which it's really nice to be able to collaborate, is recently I did a top 7 or top 6 Dark Souls bosses video, where essentially I sat down with my editor and was like, okay, hey, let's do this video. Here's what I want to do. What do you need? I'll do the audio. Can you handle the rest? And so it's nice to be able to do those videos and try those videos essentially without having to edit them. And I think that's maybe a talk for a different time about hiring people. But I know for me, I have an audio editor. Tyler does an amazing job, produces this podcast, and then Zane does a lot of my video stuff. I wouldn't be able to produce as much as I do without having them on the payroll, for sure.
And I think we will talk about that. I mean, it's been on the docket forever. We're going to talk about like hiring help. For me, it's I'm of 2 minds about it now, but I talked about it a lot on Tuesday, which is why I thought it's worth bringing up now. As I've mentioned to you, it's just like literally impossible for me to keep up what I'm doing once we have our child. It's not like I'm not in denial about that. Like I was saying on Tuesday's stream, I was like, on Monday, I worked pretty much straight from like 11 to 11. That's a luxury that will not be afforded to me once late September and October come around. So there's going to be like a kind of like a railroaded moment where I have to be like, okay, I either have to make less, or I'm going to have to start to get some people on board to make it possible for me to do as much and offload some of the stuff that I do myself and the stuff that I like doing myself, to be honest, because I mean, the way that we've talked about it, it reflects here as well. If I have the opportunity to do something myself, I would rather do it, not just to learn a skill, but because, you know, it might take me 10 minutes to make a thumbnail. If it still takes me 5 minutes to talk to somebody and be like, please make this thumbnail, I would rather just do it myself and have it available right away. But something's got to give at some point. Like, you know, in order, it's just not doable at some point. So definitely, as we get closer to Kate's due date, we're gonna have a lot more to talk about there.
Yeah,
but
for sure. And
I'm open to it.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd say, and this is nothing against either one of those guys because they both do a great job, but there is something a little bit different where, like, I know if I edit the video and I do everything, it's going to be a lot closer to the vision that I had of it. But at some point, I made the internal decision. It's better to have 80% of my vision or what I want it to be out there than 0% of it out there because I didn't have the time to do it. And the other thing is too, is we'll talk when we dedicate an episode to it. It's been really fun to see the progression of both those guys, like where they started to how good they've gotten, and it's been like rewarding in different ways. But it's, you know, it's I think it's gonna be something. It's gonna be an interesting decision for you, and I think it'll be an interesting topic for a podcast in the future, which we will get to as we wrap up the show today. Before we do that, though, I think it's been good. We want to take we'll take a few live questions, some quick hitters. But also before we do that, we got a few locked in from last week. And This one is from Terrific Tom. And this is for you, Ryan. It says, what's the balance between, and what's your philosophy on backseating versus helping with games and how you approach it?
100% for the most. And it's a good time. I'm glad we didn't answer this last week because I vented in our Discord about Control's stream or my Control stream, I should say, on Sunday. For the most part, I'm like 99.99% pro backseat. As long as the show is also entertaining, the backseating is great because I don't have to be like, where do I go? Someone in chat is like, you just apropos of nothing at all. They're just like left door. And I'm like, thank you. You're a saint. I would have spent like half an hour just doing circles in this room. And instead, someone was just like, I know where he has to go. Go through the left door. I don't even have to ask. So I love backseating. That's green light. Yellow light is like in Dark Souls. If I die to a boss like 2 times, people will be like, go to the Havel's catacombs, and inside of a pot, there's a ring that will let you do 2% more ice damage. And I'm like, thank you. If we really get desperate, I might consider doing that stuff. But I'm also pretty sure I can do it if I just dodge. Because I won't speak for you, and we don't have to get into it too much because I know we're tight for time. But in Dark Souls, I kind of like dying, like, I don't know, like 6 to 20 times against the boss, and then beating the boss on skill instead of like,
min-maxing.
Trying, min-maxing, and it's still like, it makes it. How much does it actually affect? For the most part, it might make it like 25% easier, which isn't nothing. But anyway, but then red light, I was like, man, my Control stream on Sunday sucked.
Why?
I hate to say it because I think I'm trying to be more positive, but I'm like, I did not do well in that stream. And it was like quicksand. Like, we were bantering, the game was going like pretty well. I like Control. And then like I started to die a little bit, and people in chat were like, here's how you don't die. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. These are just like reworded ways of saying like, dodge the shots and shoot the enemies. And then like it just got like worse and worse, and I kind of like got more sucked into like the negativity of it. And it was coming off the heels of Mouth also being like I watched him play Hollow Knight a little bit, and he was getting like backseated like crazy, and he was like, yeah, I get it, you jump over the spikes instead of landing on them. And so I think where I landed on that after I vented and said the things I would never say live on a platform like this, I was like, you know what? I can't control the chat's outcome or the way that the chat behaves during it. And I think it's not fair to be like, oh, chat was bad this stream, they ruined my attitude or whatever. Like, all you can do is try to hold it together as best as you can. And I think if you produce the most entertaining show that you can, and you just ignore that stuff instead of engaging with it, you can start to pull yourself out of the quicksand of getting tilted. Like, if instead of being like, I died, I'm gonna like snarkily read a comment that's like, hey, what'd you expect? You never upgrade your weapons. You could just, try to be like, hey, what's your favorite? What do you prefer, the fridge or the freezer? And start talking like that and like get yourself out of it. But I fell victim to my own to something I'm already aware of, which is as soon as you start to engage with that stuff, you can do it in a funny way, but if it doesn't hit properly, then you're just kind of slowly getting deeper into negativity. So how about you?
Yeah, I've like an inverted similar take, but for me, number one, with the whole Dark Souls trilogy, there's no way I beat it without what I call front seating. Like, to me, Dark Souls is fun when you like get to fight the bosses and you get to fight the people. I don't really want to figure out I need to go to Thing Betwixt to Andor Landor and you got to take these. Like, to me, like having that experience was way more fun with people front seating me. It just was, because it was like you said, you don't have to worry about, oh, this, you got to get this key. They're just like, hey, go get this guy, get the key and come back. That's easy. But what I try to do, and it's, I'd like to say everything I do is there's always usually a reason before it. When someone gives like just a legendary piece of like first grade simple instructions, like front seating, I'll be like, hey, everyone, like spam this one individual with front seating, because it does a couple of things. One, I really appreciate it because it helped me put on a better show. Two, I think it probably makes that person feel good. And three, I also think it may encourage other people to develop feedback in a way that is more like, hey, take the right door, the second door on the left, versus, hey, go grab this ring 1% and do it. And I think like over time, it's been really cool to see that that's what the majority, it's not all the time. Like, I played Bannerlords today and there was some DAE stuff, but I'm kind of like you see it, but I don't engage with it, because it's kind of like what you said, you engage with it, then it's like you can go down that whole, not that I don't ever engage with it and stuff like that. But to me, like having that mechanism built in the show, I think it's been really cool, and it's worked on my end. So I always welcome it. I'm like you, like, give me more of it, because I think it puts on a better show. I don't want to watch someone try to figure out how to get the last, scorpion key. Just go get it, and then let me see what the boss fight looks like.
Yeah, and I think there's just to put a cap on it, I agree. Like, stuff that I would call like administrative stuff, who cares? If it's like you need to find this key to progress, I have a different mindset than some streamers, I guess, that are like, I want to figure out everything for myself 100%. I'd be like, all right, well, you're going to be just running through this map for like 2 hours looking for this one little thing. Or someone in chat could just be like, it's in the chest that's in like this area, like that's good. Now, spoilers, I would prefer, you can't control it, because just one person could just drive by and be like, ha ha ha, got you, right? I would prefer to not have spoilers for sure. But like backseating, who cares?
Yeah,
that's my philosophy.
No, and my take on it is very similar. But for me, it's like, if people want to spoil a jump scare, I'm like, hey, look, it's completely up to you. You guys affect the show. So if you want me to be surprised, don't say anything. If you don't want me to be surprised, say something. And I don't like, to me, I'm just self-aware. I don't think people are watching me to figure out a game. Like, like, this is not, so why put any roadblocks in the way from that happening? But I think that's a really interesting question, because I don't think there's any one way to do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with people who don't like to be backseated. I think there's streamers that people enjoy watching them figure it out. I just don't think I'm one of those people. And then this is an interesting one. This is from Daly on the live chat. It says, how did you network into the streaming community? What's your thoughts on that, Ryan?
It's kind of just like, now you got me thinking. I didn't really, I guess. Like I knew Malf and Josh from before. And then like most of the people that have been involved with the NLSS just came from the NLSS community, weirdly enough. Like they made Isaac episodes and then like started talking with another person that I'm friends with, and then all of a sudden like I'm on a stream with them, and then we're in a Skype group together, and then we've been friends for like 6 or 7 years. So I mean, I never really set out to do networking, but I think that that's almost like it's a blind spot for me, if that makes sense. I've been dismissive about networking in the past, and I am like now I'm like I'm full.
In what way? What do you mean dismissive?
Like I would be at like TwitchCon, and people like on Twitter, they would be like, you got to go to TwitchCon so you can network. And I'm like, no, it was like, nobody here is like, you're going to go out for dinner with like Summit, and then you're going to go home and be like, now I'm a big streamer. Like, I don't think it's ever happened. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying networking can't help, but when people are like, I'm going to spend 6 months of my revenue on Twitch to go to TwitchCon to get my career to the next level, I'm like, I don't think that's sound. I don't think that's, as your fiduciary analyst, I would not recommend it. But I think that when it happens naturally, I think it's I think it's a good thing. Like you and I met through a mutual friend who is another content creator by the name of Mathis Games, and I think that that's good when there's like natural stuff like that. And I to be honest, it's been percolating like the early stages, because I know that you work with a lot of people that I work with. Obviously, we work with a lot of the same people, but you also do reach out. Like when you're doing your podcast, you reach out to other people that maybe I've never even heard of before. And some of them I know that from, the Tarkov scene. And some of them, I have no idea how you know them. But I'm like, you know what? I think that's cool that you're constantly exposing and getting exposed to other communities. For me, I think I'm almost like, I really think I don't work that well with others. Like the older I get, the more I'm like, I want to be like Unity is fine. But even then, sometimes there's still like some friction. And even like the NLSS is fine. But sometimes I'm like, man, if this was a solo show today, I could just play whatever I wanted, and I would be maybe a little happier. Like I don't think I'm great in a team environment right now. I think I'm like, I want to be like the guy. Like I want it all on my shoulders. I want to control like from farm to table where everything goes. But I also want I do want to get a little bit more into kind of like, if not the networking side, then to get into like at least talking to other people, because they got good philosophies. I can't ask the people in our Discord like YouTube strategy questions. We've heard it all. we don't have anything new to say. We've been saying the same thing for like a decade. But I don't know if I talk to, I don't know, John Fortnite 91, he might be like, oh, what's worked for me is this. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I think of that? That's a great idea.
See, I would disagree. I think you do work very well with others. For me, on my end, it's really easy to work with you. But I agree with you in the fact that the more people you have on the ship, you guys better have some sort of chemistry or be able to understand how each other works. Because the more people you add, the more complex it gets.
I do want to, I agree, and I thank you. And I don't want to talk over your time. I think I work well with other people because I treat them with respect for the most part. And, I'm eager to iron out whatever problems happen within a reasonable time frame of them happening. However, internally, when I'm working with other people, I'm like, I wouldn't have done that.
Really?
Sometimes, at least.
No, that's
not always, but I'm like, I think it's easy. I don't know about you, but like, I mean, a good co-op collaboration stream is amazing. It's like the highest of highs. But also, like a solo stream is more like classic. It's more like I'm on the level the whole time. Like I never get too high. I never get too low. And like some of the solo streams or some of the co-op streams are like 10s and some of them are like 1s. So I think there's a bigger variety.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But I think I'm kind of with you where like the solo streams are like, you're not gonna get the pog moment, or not as rarely as if like you're doing with someone. But on the solo side, my take on networking is I do all my networking by spending time watching the people that I like watching. So for example, like one of the the people that I would call out. I would say Deadly Slob is someone outside of our ring of friends that I've connected with. But I just started watching him, like trying to get better at Tarkov. It wasn't like, oh, hey, here's a big Tarkov streamer. Let me like, I just started like being a little bit a part of the community, be like, hey, what's going on? Like it also helped that I think his fiance watched Big Brother. I mean, that really helps a lot of the time. But like someone,
why not, right?
Yeah, but someone like Sinister One, who's a Mike Tyson, legend speedrunner. I just watched his stream because I liked him. I never met him. I don't know no one that knows him. Like I just started watching his stream and then became a part of his community. I'm like, hey, one day you want to come on the podcast? He's like, sure. But it wasn't like I didn't start watching him because I wanted to interview him on the podcast. I watched him because I enjoyed it. And I'm going to put this on tape now. I think at some point in the next couple of years, I think someone on my side of things, someone that's a part of the community on my side of things, I think I'll end up doing something with them. I just think that's how it happens, is that like people that are around that you kind of get to know, like kind of like what happened in your community. I just see that stuff happening. So my advice is that just connect and watch, or whatever, whoever you like watching, watch. And then if something happens, cool, but don't go in like trying to socially engineer a way to work with them. Cause then I don't know, it just doesn't work like that, in my opinion. And like, I can smell that a mile away, and I'm sure, I don't know if you can or not. There's been a situation, I won't put any names on the line, but I think I told you once, like there was this individual that connected with me and like a fairly big streamer, and they're like, hey, can you see if Ryan will do a video with me? And I'm like, is this real? Like, are you kidding me? And then like, so immediately I'm like, okay, like, hey, it's nice knowing you. And then I don't like, and it's like, no judgment, but like I saw what you're doing, so I'm like, cool, man, like you do you. And but I'm like don't do that, because that will like inverse. But there's times like on my end of stuff where like I'll do a random like Tarkov squad stream, and if something happens where there's a connection, it happens. So my advice is just be a part of the communities you want to be a part of, and if it happens, it happens. And the only other story I'll share is with, I was at PAX in 2015, and wolves at my door just came up to me and said, hey, hello, like I watch you on Big Brother, like sometimes I watch your streams. And like from that one normal like engagement, like we became friends, we started doing streaming, he's coming to my house. But it wasn't like, I know Jay didn't come up to me to be like, oh, I want to duo stream with you or anything like that. But just stuff like that can happen naturally. But I think it on a macro level, if you go in the mindset with like a long-term goal to do this for a long time, then that stuff will just kind of happen. But you also got to put yourself in a position for it to happen too. And also the other thing, don't be discouraged if you ask someone to do it and they're like, no, it may not be the right time or whatever. Yeah, I mean, there's so many really good questions from the chat, but we are way over on time. I think this is a really good episode. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in live, for watching the VOD on youtube.com/Northernlion, for tuning in every Tuesday morning on Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Podcast. But seriously, thank you guys so much for allowing us to do this. I know on my end, I really look forward to it. It's like a nice, I've learned stuff from Ryan. I think it's cool to talk about it, and really one of the coolest things, I don't know on your take on it, but getting like, I get messages from someone today like, hey, I ran my first 10K because I listened to the podcast. I'm like that's amazing,
Dude, yeah, the fact that we could give people some motivational juice, I think is good. And like, I think we got 2 actionable pieces of feedback. I'm gonna get that vidIQ extension. I'm embarrassed that I've been YouTubing so long.
I didn't even. I just found.
I'm going off the top of my head. I'm like, how many people are searching for Station Flow PC gameplay? It's probably like 6 people. Should be putting myself in there. Video games, that's it.
I'll send you. I'm gonna send you I did like a quick 30-second video explaining it to one of the editors. I'll just send you the video so you can physically see what it is. And then my actionable advice is, do I have end slates on or not? And if not, I got to get them on, because that 0.02 adds up. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Are you going live right after this? Because I'm going to.
No. So again, I don't want to take too long to say this, but because of that dang Isaac episode, I didn't even get a chance to shower before the show. Thank God I'm bald. So I'm gonna go shower now. You might not have even noticed, but you're looking at a dirty egg right here.
So you cannot, you prefer not to do a show without showering, or you just feel like when you get out of the shower,
it just doesn't feel right, you know? I changed. I put on fresh clothes, but I'm still like, instead of being like my fresh clothes made me clean, I'm like, I'm making my clean clothes dirty.
Got it. What time are you going live?
I'll aim for it. I'll be live. Well, are you gonna do the clip show?
Well, it all depends on when you're going live. So if you're like live now, there's no clip show. Like that's fine.
No, like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And if it takes you 20, if it takes you 25, whatever.
Okay, cool.
Doesn't matter.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys next week. I'm gonna